Welcome back to the Purple Political Breakdown. How you doing? How's your day been? And we are back at it. Daily content that we're trying to provide for you guys here. And today we got another reaction, another Jubilee reaction, and liberals and conservatives. Now, obviously, what makes this interesting is not only is Destiny in this video, but I think her name is Amala. Sounds right. She was on the PragerU. She got a lot of fans, and she gained a lot of notoriety in the politics space. I don't know. I bet she has a YouTube channel. I wonder if she streamed. I know she streams on Twitter, I think. Let me say I know. I don't know, to be honest. But I'm gonna react to this video, and it should be very interesting. We're gonna increase the speed because 27 minutes is a long time. Yeah, there we go. Come on, let's lock in. We're skipping the intro.
2, 1.
The far left and far
I've
right
actually
are
seen both sides. I'm a gay conservative, and I have seen the far right chastise me for my sexuality, and I've seen the far left chastise me for being conservative. I've had my own address put on the freeway here in Los Angeles because they feel that my voice should not be out there. So I see the two sides actively doing harm to those of us in the middle who have a really rational voice and
got
want
a
to
lot of
express
interesting. We got Destiny, obviously. We got a gay conservative. I think he's conservative. We got two trans lefties. Another conservative. So we got 1, 2, 3. I'm guessing he's conservative based off complete stereotypes. And then 1, 2 trans people. Okay. The far left, far right are equally problematic. Yes, they are. No, enough
ourselves in a safe way.
I appreciate the anecdotal experience that you had, but I think my issue saying that liberals are more problematic, I think everyone is.
What I talk about in my anecdotal incident is where I have never had a conservative physically attack me on the streets for what I am or who I am. They may verbally attack me. I've got that from the left too, but the left has physical attacks on my physical being out on the streets because I'm expressing myself.
So I mean,
multiple.
The opposite for myself. So experiences, as I said.
But you guys have a disagree.
Anecdotal,
right.
Your experience, completely valid, but to say, oh, liberals are worse.
Right. Well, it's not that there's no one worse, which is why I didn't move to strongly agree. My anecdotal experience tells me that there is a group of people on both sides that will do active harm to someone who steps out of their expected narrative.
I feel like
I might go 1 point. No,
I
I
think
think
when we talk about political extremes, I think one, there is a lack of desire for bipartisanship. The second thing is this kind of playful attachment to facts. People on the far left and the far right, whether we're talking about Israel-Palestine or vaccines, people seem to have very fun activities in terms of just completely making stuff up regarding these two things. And then the third thing is the demonization of political opponents, where people on the far left and the far right engage in this idea that the people on the opposite side of the aisle, they're not just different or have different ideas, they actually hate the country, they want to destroy us.
People get labeled as extremists just for being even pretty centrist, based on our small conversation we've already had here. I don't think anyone here is.
Oh, I was right. He was conservative. Also, this is really annoying. Yeah, my computer is being a little weird right now. Yeah, I agree, and I do want to add to what Destiny said. I've said continuously on my podcast that a lot of the times these people have the individualistic perspective of thinking that what they're doing is morally good and in the betterment of the people of the country. But they think they are so morally just that they consider the other side that disagrees with them as evil. And that's where all this stems from at the end of the day. It's misguided and ridiculous.
Extreme.
No.
But going down the street, you might get labeled a crazy leftist or racist. Or
I had to take the shirt off, for real.
It's interesting because when answering this prompt, I sort of hesitated. I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I used to be what I would characterize as a radical leftist. Now I'm sort of right of center. And I feel like I get characterized as a far-right extremist quite a bit. So I was thinking, what does far-right even mean? Because so many people who I deem to be reasonable are characterized as far-right, and I'm sure people on the left feel that very same way. I've gone and spoken to different campuses, both as a leftist and as a right-of-center individual, and I've never received more hatred or people trying to cancel my events than coming to those campuses as a conservative speaker.
Well, do you think that's because some of that rhetoric causes a lot of harm on the right side? A lot of like the things that are being said maybe in those talks like can have like lasting impacts on those students when you're on those campuses. So like, you know, in the other way, like the conservative students might not like
Already
care.
trying to justify what is going on, indicating that things being said are automatically damaging and automatically evil because they will cause harm regardless if there's any factual proof to that. It's just feelings. That's the problem. Feelings. That is the issue here.
As much about, you know, like, oh, like progress is being talked about, like, you know, like I think like there's
Perfect example is Dylan
different-
Mulvaney just spoke at the University of Penn. They are free to go and have a talk. Conservatives didn't come out and try to cancel that event. They didn't threaten staff. They didn't blockade the entrances. They let that event go on. Amala goes to speak, and there's rallies. They're pulling fire alarms. They're attacking the attendees. There is extremism.
I'm
We
sure
just have-
that there is, but I don't think Dylan Mulvaney is the right person to use for your example.
Was that wrong? Was this? My bad. If I called you I thought I heard a deep voice the first time you spoke. That was my bad. I thought you were trans. You might still be trans. I have no idea. But I'm gonna leave it there. When it comes down to it, at a lot of points nowadays, it's really hard to tell. So I'm gonna leave it there.
Because of how much
She's a leftist.
she's a leftist, but she's also had her life threatened on multiple occasions.
Right.
She's had to move around a lot because her address continuously is doxxed, and she wasn't even speaking at any sort of event. She was given a free Bud Light can, and her life was threatened.
I think something that's really important to keep in mind, given the entirety of the show, actually, is when we talk about like canceling or attacking people, the reality is if you have the power to do it, you will do it. And on college campuses, the prevailing thought right now is generally progressivism. So if they can cancel or if they can bully conservative speakers off campus, they'll do that. But then right now, because conservatives don't have power on college campuses or in some forms of media, they'll say, well, the left is pro-cancel culture. No offense to conservatives. You don't get credit for saying, well, we didn't try to cancel something on college campus. Yeah, that's because there's like 10 of you. You couldn't do it even if you wanted to. Right? Like, obviously you didn't do it, right?
I think there's way more conservative students than I think people actually give credit to, but maybe they feel like they need to, harbor those beliefs internally rather than, espouse them out loud. And I will say, any conservative who wants to shut down an event or a speech, I would wholly disagree with.
There should not be limitations on free speech. 3, 2, 1.
Disagree.
Okay, I hate this prompt. Because we all agree that like direct calls to violence are not acceptable.
Should I let them speak first? No, I'm gonna say my opinion first, and then obviously I'm gonna hear them out and respond. Yeah, I mean, I think people are misguided on terms of like free speech and in the different elements of that. We, as even the First Amendment indicates that certain types of speech that is not okay. So it seems to me that when I hear from people on the right, is that, oh, we want to okay any type of speech. I always say, no, you don't. That's just not true. There's not all speech that you want to okay. Now, the more interesting ones are the ones that are not against the First Amendment, but are still questionable in terms of the material. And those ones I even question, because in every situation, you wouldn't be okay with someone just saying whatever they want based off the circumstance. Let me try to give you an example. Let's say that you're in a setting where it's you and your family, and you and your family is having a barbecue. Let's just say like you are. Let me try to appeal to the conservatives. Let me say you're just white, and then some guy just appears. Now he's not on your property, so he's not. But he appears. He's right outside the property, and he's just calling you a bunch of white slurs. You wouldn't be okay with it. Would you want to limit his speech? No, but you wouldn't be okay with it. So I just want to provide some nuance that, yes, there is speech that is limited. We all recognize that there is speech that is limited for a very, very, very good reason. But the more questionable ones in terms of the type of speech is something that we are truly not okay with to an extent. I don't want to limit anybody's speech, but I do want to recognize that not all speech is okay and shouldn't be considered free speech. That's why I would say disagree. Maybe Destiny's going to say the same thing. Not all speech is free speech. That is the point that I want to get across to your head.
acceptable, I imagine.
Right.
We all agree, like, you can't scream fire in a theater. Otherwise, I think that, like, there should be Nazis on college campuses, like, doing their ideology. You should be allowed to say basically whatever rhetoric you want, as long as it's not, like, violating the terms of service of a platform. I do agree that vaccine misinformation is harmful. I do agree that misinformation relating to conspiracy theories is harmful, but I don't think the proper way to go about addressing that is to lock it all down and to ban it. I like the steps that YouTube has taken, where they might put a note under the video, or what Twitter, or the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, called X, is taking, where they have, like, the community note system.
I was
Yeah, I
thinking the
like
very
that as
same thing
well.
as you. Of course, there are certain things that you cannot do, even with free speech being present. And I'm not sure how you define hate speech. So with some of the hate speech laws that are coming about, I think those need to be reevaluated and maybe rolled back, because even people who we disagree with or we don't like or we view as evil should still be able to espouse their beliefs.
Right. For example, right now, what's going on with students on campus, I don't agree that Congress and other
doesn't he give a
individuals should
name?
limit what students are
don't
talking
know his
about on
name.
campus, what's going on in Gaza, what's going on in Israel, with
There we
the
go,
crackdown on
justice.
JVP, the crackdown on Students for Justice for Palestine. The people who are in power should understand that students are the most, I would say, abrasive when it comes to speaking out against injustices.
I'm a free speech absolutist. I think that there should be repercussions to certain free speech, but it's a constitutional right, and yeah, that's where I stand with it. I don't want any apps being banned.
Saying you're a free speech absolutist is it's so tough. It's so tough. I feel like people should be allowed to say what they want, but it does get us in dangerous territory. So you should have the ability. I think this guy's gonna say something similar to me. Wait, hold up. Wait.
And I don't want people being banned from certain apps. And I think there's an attack on our First Amendment right now.
That is what's dangerous. When people deliberately start creating ideological safe spaces and is able to cultivate people in those spaces. If free speech is truly going to be what it's supposed to be, it needs to allow opposing voices to counteract your speech. It needs to. That's why I'm always a little dangerous when these social media companies and these social media organizations and these ideological organizations are creating social media apps purely for a specific ideology. I think that is dangerous. And based off the rules of free speech, that shouldn't be allowed. I think anybody should be allowed to join if they want to. So, yeah, that's why that's why I can't, it's hard for me to be an
Yeah.
absolutist.
So you think no one should be banned from
No,
platform?
absolutely
So
not.
like someone calls me like the F slur, you like leave them.
Yeah.
Why?
I get called that
Because
all
that's
the
their
time.
right to say that. Now, you can't, there should be measures taken where, like I said, there are repercussions to certain speech. I don't think the platform should be able to remove
Yeah, something I said. Let me let them speak.
them,
They're
but I think you should
only,
have the right
like,
to block them
halfway
like we
through.
already
Let
can
me
now,
let-
because I've lost 3 Instagram profiles just for saying, oh, I don't think children should have sex changes under the age of 18. Accounts gone. Like, I've lost thousands of followers and stuff for just saying things that I think are just
I do have a
complicated,
question
so-
for you, actually.
Yeah.
Because I can understand why, like, hearing a word like that is harmful, and it's not something that you want to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you rather know who's homophobic, though? Wouldn't you rather know who's racist?
Yeah.
These platforms have the right, as private businesses, to say what they want on those businesses. It's not cancel culture
is
for
why
them
I
to
want
take
X
down
to become
slurs.
a
And honestly, they're not that great
public,
at taking down slurs anyway.
they're not.
Anyway,
No.
because I get called a on a daily basis online just for being a Jewish person.
Unfortunate thing is this internet and social media has become the town square. And the town square, if you were to take a box and put it in the town square,
I like her
there is no
style,
limit
no
on what you
lie.
can say. And who's to say the city's going to come down and say, you use the word and we're going
like
to take
a
your
mix of, like,
soapbox and you can't
chains
ever
and then
come
this
back to my
little, like,
city. That's
cartoony
exactly
top,
what
like,
you're
what?
doing when you're saying
What's
the
going on
platform
here?
has every right to remove this language.
duality
You have the
is
option to
throwing
go
me
to
off.
another platform. There's plenty of
So we have an option to
conservative.
go to another city then.
There's plenty of conservative platforms
Now
that
you have no free speech.
you have free speech because you have so many options.
I think we have to be really careful when we talk about the concept of free speech. I like the concept of free speech, and I would defend that across multiple platforms. But that's fundamentally different than the First Amendment. The First Amendment has nothing to do with, like, the concept of free speech. The First Amendment prohibits Congress or state or local governments from making laws specifically abridging your right to freedom of speech. Like, hate speech laws don't exist in the United States because there's not hate speech. Hate can be an aggravator to an existing crime, but we don't outlaw certain types of speech. Twitter does not have a legal obligation. It's a violation of their First Amendment right to say they have to host whatever type of speech or tweet that somebody has on the platform.
And a hate crime and a hate incident are 2 different things too. And I wanted to say, like, if somebody called you, the F word, and then they say
That's another thing, which is why I said I do think Twitter eventually needs to become that public square. So That's why I'm very concerned that these private businesses are doing what they're doing. That's why it's like hard to be an absolutist when it comes to free speech. If Twitter becomes the public square that they say they are, then the element of free speech should be perfectly embodied, and the only thing that you have to worry about at that point is making sure that the worst part of the things that are not covered under free speech, like obscenity, like you guys can look it up, obscenity, aggressive violence, causing violence, stuff like that, inciting violence, stuff like that, should be banned in the Constitution. First Amendment covers that, but all types of speech should be part of the conversation, right? So yeah.
Said they wanted to kill you, then that's a hate crime,
Bingo.
and that's not protected, right?
Correct.
But a hate incident, somebody could call you an F word and not say they want to kill you, and that's still protected.
Exactly. It can be an
under free
aggravating
speech.
circumstance to an existing crime, but you can call somebody whatever you want, and it's not, yeah.
I often criticize my own political party. 3, 2,
I'm in the middle. I'm more of a moderate independent, so I don't have any political party.
I see that you're on the disagree side.
I am.
Like,
I'm sitting here
what
listening.
brought you there?
What brought me here is because I tend to be a more, I guess you could say, traditional conservative in that I don't like to speak ill of my own party. I just don't. For me to go out and air their dirty laundry out where everyone can see it is only going to put a blemish on them. And I always want to put my best foot forward, and I always want to put my party's best foot forward. But I will point out the instances where I disagree with them privately so that they can make the necessary changes.
I've got to ask, I'm so sorry, because you said you were a Trump supporter, right?
Yes.
This must be the thing you hate the most about him, right? Isn't Trump the most anti-Republican attack?
But here's the thing, I come from a community where we found our power in local government. I've separated myself from this.
I see what he's saying. I hate everything about the concept, but I see what he's saying, because you're treating your party like your friends. And I see what you mean, because even I struggle with, if I think you're just wrong, I don't know why I need to keep quiet about it. I struggle with this. I struggle with this so much. I'm not gonna lie. I respect it though. I see the value of what he's saying.
This idea that I'm going to speak poorly about Trump because I want him to put his best foot forward.
I wish more liberals did that, to be honest. I think a lot of liberals, we tend to bash our party on the social media platforms, or when we protest a lot, right? But I think when it comes to going to these city council meetings, going to Congress, writing our elected officials, we tend to fall back on that, and we rely on social media, and we rely on demonstrations.
There is a lot of infighting on the right that I think makes us look very bad. One thing about liberals, you guys really do stick together, and you actually get work done, even when I don't agree with it. Whereas the right, with people like us, I feel like they see gay Republicans or conservatives as useful idiots, to be honest. That's why I kind of take issue with saying that I'm a gay conservative or gay Republican. They don't try to cast a wide net to bring new people over, whereas liberals do.
From my perspective as a liberal, I sometimes see y'all sticking really hard together. And y'all are like, no matter what, we're gonna vote red. Y'all seem very unified, even though you're talking about public, there's internal
From my
discourse.
perspective,
but
from the middle,
I feel like
the
liberals
right
feel
has
there's a lot of internal discourse amongst
We're
always yelling at each other.
Well, that's interesting because Democrats, they're winning a lot more elections right now. And that's another critique I have of the Republican Party.
I'm gonna say this real quick. From my side, initially, I thought, oh yeah, the Republicans had their stuff together. But I now realize that the left doesn't have their stuff together, and the right doesn't have their stuff together. And the right is because of a lot of the Trump stuff, and the left is a lot of the differences between the very, very, very radical progressives and just liberals and leftists in general. So yeah, it's tough.
Party, the midterm elections, they completely blew it. They put out a lot of bad candidates. The left didn't do that. They
and
put a lot
policies. It's like the right stays stuck on certain things, like abortion. It's like they're unbudging with that, and it's like, all right, if we're pro-life, let's be pro-life in and outside the womb, because they only focus on abortion. But what about war? Because now they want to send everybody over to Israel. So I'm like,
Violence should never be the answer to any issue. 3,
disagree.
2, 1.
Hey there, it's Amala.
Hey, I'm Destiny.
Do you want to be in a Jubilee video?
If so, go to jubileemedia.com/casting
That's
or click the link below this video and you can apply.
Now let's get back to it.
I mean, violence, assuming we have a
Jubilee.com.
functioning democracy, I think violence is bad for two huge reasons. One is because we don't want to condition people to feel like violence is the answer to political disagreements. And then two, we want people to we want everybody to be able to utilize some form of protest against the government. And when we endorse violence, we're now saying it's okay for even people we disagree with to use violence, and that could be really scary for a lot of different reasons. But I would say in general, in 99%, where we're at today in the United States, we are not at the level where violence is necessary to enact any.
Jesus. I don't know why my computer's acting up right now. Jubilee.com/casting. You may see your boy in the future. Well, if they pick me. I don't want to go anytime soon. Probably during the summer. This summer is going to be a huge summer for me. Let's apply. I'm definitely applying. We got to get the word out. We here. You know what I'm saying?
Any kind of political change.
I wouldn't say that's entirely true. I mean, there's a certain level of violence happening to marginalized communities. That doesn't mean I necessarily agree with violence when it comes to the Palestinian rebellion that's been happening in Israel. I don't agree with Hamas killing people. That's terrorism. But at the same time, the violent uprisings that have happened, most of which have actually been peaceful, but still there is some sort of violence happening because they've been oppressed for so long. Back in the Holocaust, people think that, oh, Jews went peacefully into the concentration camps. No, we were violent. We had uprisings, we fought back. At a certain point, there is violence in fighting back to oppression.
I put agree because I don't strongly agree with it because I'm all about nonviolence in my life. What I practice, my spirituality, I'm all about nonviolence. But at the same time, as I organize and I'm on the ground and I'm at protests and I'm at demonstrations, by any means necessary means, right, quoting Malcolm X, that you have to have some form of disagreement with the state that's not listening to your needs as people, as free people. And sometimes that takes, rebellious actions like burning down banks or burning down institutions that are not listening to you. But as Black people in America, if we're only demanding liberty and justice, we're not asking for revenge. We're just asking for equality. And sometimes I think the state looks at us being a resistant as violence.
Sure, yeah, the reason I came over here, I was thinking more internationally. If a country's met with violence, there's really only one way to respond to that. I don't think Israel could go to Hamas and say, hey guys, can you just not do that again? When Hamas is already saying that they plan more attacks that they had on October 7th. So I think Israel has the right to defend themselves with violence.
Sure, I think so there's a couple key things to keep in mind here. So one is, when we talk about violence in response to political ideas, we have to be really careful that we don't redefine violence to mean literally anything that we don't like. Because I've noticed that people are doing these things where there is a white supremacist violence against Black communities because of the way money is distributed with our taxes. And people will take that very academic form of violence, and it's okay, I think, to have this analysis, but they'll take that academic form of violence and they'll say, now we can kill police officers and burn down buildings, or now we can engage in arson or destroy neighborhoods.
My side
Bro,
is
they just
misrepresented
cut
by the
Destiny's
media.
portion. Because I know Destiny can go on a ramble, but he has there's logic to what he's saying.
3, 2, 1.
My side is misrepresented by the media. I would agree. I'm in the middle.
Honestly,
Nobody likes
the media is
moderates.
controlled by the left. I really never see any positive light shine on conservatives nor the right in the media ever, unless it's right-leaning media.
And to your point, what I think is really interesting to even just look at the conservatives who are here today, it's a pretty diverse bunch of people. And when I was on the left, my characterization of conservatives was white, heterosexual, old man. And to having moved over that space and see, oh, there's way more people who just happen to have conservative beliefs, or maybe they don't agree with some of the woke stuff that's happening right now, I think we are often mischaracterized.
I do agree that right now, ironically, it seems like the left and the farther left have more kind of corporate media control in terms of how images are displayed. So you're going to feel like if you're a conservative that you're not accurately represented, and the left maybe gets some more fair representation.
Yeah,
but
that's pretty
on platforms where
cutthroat for
conservatives
me.
run things, holy Christ, are people on the left completely and totally misrepresented. How many times have I heard these stupid quotes from the WEF where it's oh, you want us to rent everything and own nothing, and you want us to eat bugs, and you're on your 57th booster shot. Today, if anybody's ever listened to Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage, Billy Cunningham, any of these people, these guys are not giving fair, accurate representation of the left. Their voices just tend to be more marginalized or smaller now in media because of how much corporate control kind of bows to the woke agenda, I would say. Yeah.
I'd like to push back on that just a little bit. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but when it comes to right-wing media, maybe platforms like the Daily Wire or PragerU, they're very open about the fact that they're conservative. A lot of the mainstream left news, they'll present their opinion as fact. But like someone like Ben Shapiro, he'll tell everyone, listen to my show, listen to Pod Save America, figure out what you think is right, and you could figure out the facts based on what we're both saying. You don't see that as much from the left.
I want to push back on that because Ben Shapiro has stated a lot of opinions as facts.
Yeah.
I don't think
Well, sure.
I think that there are better examples to use within the Conservative Party that are more open about being opinionated, but Ben Shapiro is not.
Yeah, or Michael Knowles saying transgenderism should just be eradicated from society. It's so now y'all are really giving them a bullet to use against us.
It's the culture war bullshit.
Yeah,
Like,
culture war
it's
bullshit,
just
yeah.
that's what I'm so sick of between both sides.
I think Ben Shapiro does a pretty good job personally. But it's interesting that she's Jewish and saying what she's saying. Man, a lot of cultures and religions are becoming very, 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 very split nowadays. A lot of things are just becoming very split.
Because I do think that both sides are misrepresented within media.
They went way too hard with the Bud Light thing. I'm
it's
like, let's let it
exhausting.
go.
Especially on this topic now, I think in 2020 we all can agree every news station, besides most conservative news stations and podcasts, were posting black squares and saying that they were black people. But now, you know, what's going on with Israel and Hamas, you see some media companies taking the silent side or firing correspondents on CNN like Mark Lamont Hill, or firing other people on MSNBC if they have a neutral stance. So I agree with you. I think it's a cultural war on both ends, right? You have some liberal apparatuses who don't agree with some things that some liberals say.
Same with the right and how they did Tucker Carlson.
Both liberal and conservative media, even if they say they're blatantly stating facts, they're failing to contextualize those facts, because a story presented with blank facts looks very different when you actually hear like the build up and like really see what's going on underneath.
Mainstream media tends to
I agree.
misrepresent conservatives. We all can agree on that. But what they do very well is they misrepresent liberals in a positive light. We can all remember the news anchor going, "It's a mostly peaceful rally," and there's a
Right.
building burning behind him. They've misrepresented the other side, saying, "Look, this side is all sunshine and rainbows, everything's fine. Pay no attention to those people being hurt in the back." And instead of actually elevating people who were advocating for peace and saying, "Please don't destroy these buildings," they focused on the destruction and everything else, but not the actual destruction. So I see both sides being completely misrepresentative, but misrepresented
What
in
is
different
the
ways. The
last
right being
thing?
ignored and cast out as crazy, and the left going, "We're the shining example of tolerance. Look at us." When underneath the surface, we see the truth.
The American dream is still alive.
Um, should I listen to this? Should I watch this last one? I haven't. Sure. Let's listen to it. Let's listen to it.
When upward class mobility is so hard as it is right now, the American dream
Is it? Is it so hard? There's a lot. There's a lot of people who are just becoming rich as hell due to content creation. Like rich as hell, bro. As for like the normal jobs, I mean, anybody can get a degree, anybody can learn IT, anybody can do all of the like anybody can do these things. I don't know, man. I think it's very, very much alive.
is it's either dead or it's on life support, because it's just damn near impossible for people to climb out of poverty. Everyone thinks that they're going to be
Is
the
it?
next Jeff Bezos. You're closer to being on Skid Row than you're ever going to be to Jeff Bezos.
I think
Well,
the American
generally,
dream has become
sure.
the American memory. Like I was thinking about this just outside of politics. Like, you know how a lot of people have nostalgia for like the past and stuff. It made me look at America, and it's like, we're not gonna get back the America that we were post 9/11 when everybody was a little more unified outside of the Patriot Act and everything. We're not gonna get the America where all races could get along without people saying, "Oh, you're culturally appropriating, you're microaggressions," all that little stuff that keeps us divided. I don't think we'll get back to the America that we grew up in. I honestly don't. Like, I want to be optimistic, but it's hard.
I guess I just don't know that that's the point of the American dream. I think it shifts and it changes, and it takes on the context of the time that it's in, where we had that sort of old school nuclear family, house with the white picket fence. That's changing with technology and corporations buying up properties and things like that. But I don't think the American dream is dead. I think it's taking on a new form. I think still there is no better place to be, no better place for progress. And as you watch people in other countries, what are they influenced by? They're influenced by America. Where do they want to be? They want to be in America. So it speaks to me that the dream is very much still alive. Opportunity is very much still alive. It just looks
The
different.
dream or the idea?
The dream.
The dream.
A dream.
Yeah, I agree strongly with what you're saying here. That dream of being able to buy a house, having the nuclear family, being happy, that's still my view of the American dream. It is harder to attain, that's for sure. It might be dead here in California.
It's not, I can assure you.
I want to believe that the American dream can be like real. The more I've experienced life, the more I feel it is a little more on the dead side. Like, it's like this idea that we're taught when we're growing up is that you work the hardest, you're gonna get the most, right? Like, but that's just not true. Like, and that's not the world we live in. And I know it's a little pessimistic. As I said, like, I want to be like the poverty cycle breaker in my family, but it's like, it feels next to impossible sometimes.
It may feel out of reach, but I started my adult life with $35 in my pocket, and I was a runaway because my parents locked me up. I saw them achieve the American dream of having a home and having beautiful children. I wanted that, and I worked hard. And now in my work in real estate, I see people achieving the American dream all day long. Sometimes California is a little outside of our price range. We got to go to another state. But that potential, that idea that I am free to choose to get a home, choose to get land, choose to start a business, that is still here. And I wholeheartedly believe that the American dream still rests in our hands. We just have to be strong enough to take it.
I think for individuals who immigrate to America, the American dream may still be alive and embedded within their spirit. But I think for BIPOC folk that are within America, the American dream is sort of a memory, and it's becoming less vibrant due to the housing crisis, due to, like you said earlier, gentrification, due to the lack of education. When the American dream was first, promoted within the 1960s, Reagan, Nixon, they funneled so much money within the American economy for people to go to college and not worry about it, for people to afford a home and not worry about it, for people to get a car and not worry about it.
Be able to work a minimum wage job and support a family.
Thank you, but now, since there's so many instances of people on the top, making sure they hold that wealth, we see so many BIPOC folk in America suffering, and not being able to get to that middle class, right? The American middle class is no longer here.
So you're speaking just from the BIPOC perspective, not American.
I'm speaking just from the BIPOC perspective.
Isn't like the American dream supposed to apply to everyone? And I think that's the issue. It's like, when I heard you, I'm like, I think that's amazing that like some people do have the access to move and stuff like that, but like, what do you say for those people at the bottom who are working so hard and they can't? Like, they just
I feel like a lot of the views you have of the American dream is so politically tainted that one of the things that sucks is for the cool things that are happening in America, you can't even take credit for it anymore. I hate that I chose like the most politically divisive topics, but like, for instance, like I personally think the COVID vaccine, that was a huge success of United States innovation and capitalism. I think our guns are really cool. I think that's like super awesome. You can shoot awesome firearms in the United States. I'm a proud gun owner from Nebraska. It seems like for all the things that exist that are good, we can't take credit for them anymore because all of them become so heavily politically divided that we start to have this huge doomer outlook on everything.
I think it's really hard for some people to have that optimistic outlook when there is so much in the way. Like I, as a disabled person, we're still forgotten about with marriage equality. We're still forgotten about when it comes to health mandates. For a lot of people who live this every day, for us, the American dream is dead, and it's been dead for a while.
I just think like as a the fact that we're all here and like close.
Yeah, that's the element that I want to focus on, is what actually exists, the opportunity. The opportunity actually exists. I get being very doomer pilled about a lot of these things, of course, especially when you're in poverty and you can't really see the light. That's because mostly, for the most part, culture around you definitely blackpilling you to a large extent, and you're not taking responsibility for your own actions. And in part, this is actually the state and the government, which I am willing to talk about, the education that is not providing them the resources and the information to take advantage of the opportunities they have. Does the opportunity exist? 100%. It 100% exists for every single person in America. The problem is, do you know about the opportunity? That is the key element. But what can we do for America? Well, you can free speech. The way we can talk about our government, our people, the way we can talk in general, very different from any other country. In terms of the Second Amendment, the ability to protect ourselves with weaponry that maybe a criminal will have, very, very important. There are so many things that America has in terms of our progressive nature, to the point where LGBTQ rights are very much a thing, to the point where so many different races and cultures are very much intertwined within the culture and the community, to the point where you can become anything you want from the comfort of your own home due to content creation abilities, whether it's a YouTuber, content creator, podcaster, TikToker, it doesn't matter. You can create a voice for yourself. You have the opportunity to do a lot of things. And if you want to talk a little bit more professional, you have the opportunity to educate yourself with real estate. You have the opportunity to go to college, of course. Will you go in debt? Sure. If you navigate things properly, that won't be as much of an issue as you think. When it comes down to learning, getting some online certificate to learn some IT job, when it comes down to going to a job that can be fruitful in terms of like UPS, the problem is people think, oh yeah, I can live a life for minimum wage. It's minimum wage for a reason. It's not meant for you to live a comfortable life. It's minimum wage. Do you have the opportunity to get other jobs? Do you have the opportunity to grow from that minimum wage job? Yes. The misguided nature here, there's two things that I kind of agree in terms of the American dream being problematic nowadays, and that's two, the knowledge of the opportunity you have access to and the current situation when it comes down to minimum wage jobs being impossible to live. Like, it's impossible to live with just a minimum wage job. You need a roommate and you need to use your resources appropriately. Things are getting more expensive, so you got to navigate very differently. So yeah, that's my opinion.
Clothed and fed and have water, and we're
Right.
here discussing ideas and like how to make this country a better place. To me, that completely signifies the American dream we are currently living in.
That's like, as you said, like a really optimistic view, like, oh, look how far we've come, but what if that's not enough for those people right now? Like, that sucks for the people living right now who don't have what they need.
That's
so
the
like,
beauty of America. We are free to succeed or we are free to fail. It's free to do whatever you want.
I'd rather be here. I'll just say that. I'd rather be in America.
Right.
Stand by that. But that was a really good video. I will be going on that website to cast myself to be on a future episode. But I appreciate you. Again, we're trying to do daily content. We're really trying to change the narrative of politics and the discussions and the conversations we can have. I always try to make it very apparent that the opinions that I'm iterating to you. Of course, I come from a moderate side, but I have my own logic that I apply to everything that I am saying. And that logic comes from my experience and my perspective being very much having a lot of experience with both the left and the right. So hope you guys enjoy. Y'all have a good one. Take care and peace.